Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this lesson. And today we're going to be painting the hydrangeas and lilies in an abstract, loose way using the catalyst wedge and some of these palette knives and other tools, catalyst tools here that I've got out. And I'm going to be working with this 10 by 10 canvas. And I'm trying to film it on a little smaller canvas so that I can film the mixing and the process from above. So let me know in the comments if you like this format and if you would like me to see more like this, or if you like it when I paint on the easel using a bigger canvas and I kind of show you the mixing process as I go by, lifting it up kind of in front of the canvas. You only get so much room to display whatever it is you're videoing, and I'm by no means a video expert, so I can kind of show you a few different ways I can film, and then I'll look at the comments and see what you guys think. All right, to start off with, I'm going to mix a little bit of this transparent yellow oxide and a little sap green. And I want to, and I'm also going to give my canvas a little spritz. This is just one of those value pack canvases that I get from Michael's. And I'm just I didn't pre-gesso this one because, this painting is just a demo. But if you really want to give yourself a good, start, it makes a big difference if you go and put a little layer of gesso on there and just let it dry or blow dry it off before you start. Really makes a big difference. So I'm just trying to get this sort of greeny gold color underneath. And it's just another way to start your painting. I've done the last few weeks, I've kind of started off with just a solid color. But if you're painting using oils, for example, and you start with a wash, you could use green gold or the same colors. I tend to use universal colors that I paint with are usually, aside from like this kind of pink or something, I tend to use them so that if you're following along in oil, you can follow along using the same palette. I want to make sure everyone has the best chance to kind of learn and follow along that they can. I've taken many courses at the Scottsdale Artist School, and I learned a lot there, but I also learned that sometimes teachers tend to want to hide their technique, thinking that if everyone learns it, then they won't have a good business or something. But I have tried my hardest to paint like the experts, and as much as you can watch someone paint, it takes the practice and all the rest to really get ahead. You can't just magically watch and then do it. So I'm not too worried. So now I've got that layer on there. I'm going to just go ahead and I can blot out where the hydrangea is going to go. This is also a technique I've learned from painting many years in oil. And for many years, I painted only in acrylic when I lived in Canada. But then when I moved to the States, everyone down here in Arizona, at least, painted in oil. So I had to kind of relearn everything. So I still use my oil painting techniques when I do acrylic, and this is one of them. I like to kind of wipe away my drawing a little bit before I start applying the catalyst wedge. It kind of gives me an idea where the brush strokes are going to go and where the flowers are going to all kind of put them all in. Now, another thing about putting this kind of green gold background in is it really works well when you have a lot of leaves, and we're going to do some negative shape painting in this where you kind of will see how you can form great leaves. If you have this nice kind of green base, you can darken some of the greens around and really have fun kind of doing some negative painting, negative space painting. So I'm just kind of blocking in some of where those stargazers are going to go. And of course, you never really know until you get painting where every kind of takes a life of its own. So it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just putting some of the blue hydrangeas around, and then there's going to be leaves. So I think that is a good start. So I'm also thinking about layers and where everything will go. And I want to make those stargazer lilies a real one stroke thing. So I think I'll start using I could try, because I'm using a smaller canvas, this little catalyst wedge tool here. And I'm going to get in some of that blue for the hydrangea right off the bat. And it will kind of leave the area where the stargazer is going to come in. And keep in mind, we're going for real abstract. So that abstract, like everything, is it's really up to you how much detail you want to show when you're painting in an abstract, hydrangea. You could have as little detail as you want. And I want to keep it as simple as I can in this painting. So I didn't realize I grabbed ultramarine blue to start, which is fine. Then I went for the cobalt. So who knows? So I'm just kind of blocking in, and you just keep trucking there with the blue, and then I'll get a little bit of this white. And this little tool is working quite nice for the size of the canvas that I'm using here. And because I'm in a drier climate, I'm going to sort of add a bit of the detail, while I've got the paint kind of wet. Just mix a little more blue into that. And I'm just been really enjoying this. I have been doing this since the new year. It was kind of my goal to loosen up my own paintings because I have more of a traditional style. And so you have all been so encouraging to me in this whole process, because I thought, people will, I know traditional painters will think this is, crazy and blah, 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 but I want my art to look kind of loose and free. So that's what we're doing. And it's fun. It's like a whole different experience painting this way. So I hope you give it a try. And you can always ask me questions in the comments too. I try to, thankfully YouTube has a really easy app that I can kind of see who's left me a message or whatever. You could take a bit of that green gold and mix it into some of that blue and add some white, and you'll get kind of that the leaves that are a little bit kind of in transition from white to blue. Because I bought this bouquet from Trader Joe's, and it kind of quickly, those little hydrangeas do not like being out of their natural climate. So I'm just going to put a bit of that in there. And now I'm going to rinse my brush. And I'm going to get this little one with the point. I figured would be a great one for putting in some of those lily shapes. So I'm going to put that white right into there. And I'm working on this palette from Michael, so it doesn't have any keeping the paint wet qualities. It's just a plastic palette. But I use it so I have lots of room to use these, tools and everything. I even add a little bit of blue into that mix just to have some, the leaves that are in the shadows. I could put that as a good base. So I'm going to look at the shape of the lily. There's 3 petals that go this way, and then 2 small ones that kind of come out. It's kind of missing one. I guess one fell off. So I'm going to first do the 3. So this will be interesting. I've never done. Kind of smush that paint in there. And then the other one comes. I use some of that paint to get the other one in there. And then there's this big one that comes down here. And then you got the little one that's coming up the middle. Kind of making sure I really get enough on there to make it work. And then I'm gonna kind of smush that in there to create those little wobbly lines. Kind of squish this one up a little more. And then we got this other one that comes out here. I think these are probably the most intimidating flowers for me to paint. Now there's a little bud right here, so we can just block that in using that white, and then we'll add different colors to that one later. And then there's another one down here. And this one is going to be even more abstract and sort of kind of there, but we don't care, sort of, there, but we don't care. I like that. So there's sort of, that one's just going to be really loose. Remember to give my paint a little spritz here. And then I'll get some more of that. I'm going to add a little bit of that yellow oxide. And put a little more white in there. And I'm going to just kind of put that, more white maybe. I don't go for the whitest white right away. I want to sort of get in there some of the block in, and then I can add some of those brighter whites later as highlights. I love how the paint goes on though, like this. Get that little edge in there a bit more. Okay, and then the bud, and I think there's a little bit of another one of those bud things over here. And okay, so now I'm just gonna clear this area here for more color. And I'm gonna kind of scrape off a little bit of the paint in the center of that one because I want the dark pink to go on there really well. So I'm just gonna clean this off a little. And now I'm gonna go, and I think I'll use this one here. We'll try this for the quinacridone magenta for the center. We'll try it out and see how that works. So I'm going to twist it kind of like I would a brush and bring it up into the middle. And then I'm going to go get more here. And same thing, sort of drag that up there. I want to not fuss with it as much as I can. And I'm looking to leave that white kind of trim that's on the flower. I'm just going to keep going here. And just use the corner of the palette knife after I pull that away. And then you can kind of use a little bit of the, the effect that it has, the little streaks that kind of go up. You want to close this gap a little. It's a little too big. But I can use the brush now, sort of pull some of those little lines that kind of come off into the flower a bit. And sort of add a little more detail. And then we got this one over here. Mix a little bit of that pink in there, just get that sort of color, and I'll add a little cobalt blue, and there's a kind of a dark, pinky color in the back of the flower that to show that it's kind of more in the shadow color. I'm going to put that in there. Maybe put a little yellow in there, that oxide yellow, just to make it a little more natural. So we're just really looking at shapes and color and to form this flower. Use some of that white there and really get the edge on some of those. You could add a little dab of that white. Okay, and then I'm gonna go in now and I want to get some of this green happening before I work on these buds and everything. I'm gonna go get some of this sap green, and I've got some of this light olive green or whatever it is from same Liquitex Basics. These are all just very experimental paints. I don't want to use my golden paints on this because it's just too much, money to spend on putting this much paint down. So I buy all of these colors. The sap green I'm using is the Amsterdam acrylic, and the ultramarine blue you have to get from Amsterdam acrylic, which is a good quality, but it's still like $5.99, and then the rest are these Liquitex basics. And I've got out this primary yellow, and this is this light pink, but I'll make sure to list all the colors I use. Sometimes I forget, but. So now I'm going to drag some of these strokes off of here, because that's the kind of feeling I liked about the photo was, and I can use some of that light yellowy green to show that that's a little bud. Yeah, one of the things I liked about this angle when I took this photo was I like that you're getting this kind of aerial view with all the different leaves going around. It had, to me, a lot of good action to it. And there's another kind of bloom up here, and I'll put the little stems in. And then this will fill in with some of the green. That really makes the flowers, really stand out once you get the green in. And the thing is, when you use these Catalyst wedge tools, you can't be picky, and you really can't, because you just have to create a looser painting using them. The stem coming down here. And it's just fun kind of putting all this paint on there. Gonna get a little bit of that white mixture in there and yellow, and kind of get some of that color for those buds that are forming. And I think I'll switch to this little pointier one. Sort of block that in there. And then I'm gonna clean that tool off and go back and really put in a bit more detail here. This flower needs to be a little darker, so I'll add some of that kind of purpley, yellowy, mixture that I had. And I want to kind of bring that down a bit, so when I add the details to this one, it'll stand out more. And I can get the white on the edge of my little brush there, and I can do a little more, few little squiggles to give those flowers some more highlight. And also gonna go and get a little bit of this Viridian, mix it with some of that yellow oxide, and I want to really just kind of put in a bit of that darker. There's a little kind of triangle in the center. I feel that'll help the little stems to really show up when I put them in. And a little bit of that dark green I'll pop in there just so that the flower sticks out a little more. And then there's a kind of a highlight here. Put a little bit of a highlight around there. You sort of just kind of get in the flow of it. Now this one, I feel like this bloom, I tried to put it in there because it was in the reference photo, but it's kind of taking away from my flower. So even though it's there and I worked at it for a while, I'm gonna scrape it because I feel like it's ruining the joy of this lily here. So I'm going to scrape it. And sometimes you just have to do that, especially when you paint flower bouquets. Sometimes it's just you work so hard and then you think, well, at the end of the day, it just doesn't make sense. So I'm gonna go and put this little thing here. And then I'll go get this pink and put in the other little thing. So you'll have to kind of copy me on that one because in the reference photo, this doesn't exist. I'm just sort of ad-libbing a little because I felt like that was taking away from the whole thing. And we can just put in a little bit of green down there. There. Okie dokie. So now I feel like that's a lot better for now than trying to work on getting everything just right with that bud. So now I'm gonna go and I'll take some of that kind of lime green color, bit of that yellow in there. I want it to kind of stand out. And I can use this palette knife and sort of put in the little stamen things. Put those little things in there, and then I'll just use the kind of an orange color, so I'll just get a little bit of burnt sienna for now and kind of draw them in. Add a little yellow to it so they show up a bit more. So that's just some of this primary yellow and burnt sienna to mix up something kind of orangey brown. And then you can always add a little bit of yellow to it, brighten it up, and then add kind of a highlight to it. Add a little touch of white in there, that'll really brighten it. And then you've got the little middle, the little final part right there. I'll just start off with some of that, and then I can add a little, it's kind of almost a blue color. You can add a little bit of that to it. There you go. So now I'm going to go and block in a little bit of something else in the background. I thought you could just get a brush if you wanted to, or you could use, let's see, which one of these. I could use this wedge tool and just get a little bit of white, and some of this, maybe this gray would look kind of nice. So I'll do some of this light gray color in the background. Then you can kind of see the negative shapes in painting these leaves. You can cut in and really show off some of that green behind, but you know, you're just kind of leaving some of the green for the stems and everything. Let's move this. And you're kind of just cutting around the leaves. If I had more room on my canvas, I could kind of show you a little bit more. But I think you get the idea. Okay, now I like to kind of look around and see what else I can add here. So I want to add a little more highlight to the blue. So I'm going to add some white into the blue, like this, and just go ahead and really get some nice lighter brush strokes there, and a lot of volume in this paint. And I might even pop a little bit of that blue down here in some of the background. And same with the pink. I'm going to go and add a little bit of that to the mix too. I put some of it out, and I thought it would be kind of fun to put some of that pink in there somewhere. So just a few little bits of it just to make sure there's some different colors. And you might take some of that yellow and just sort of add a flash of that here and there, of that really limey green color. And it's getting very abstract, so we're getting somewhere here on loosening up. Okay, well, I think that's about it. I can't really paint too much more on this canvas, but we worked through a few things and we had fun and painted this stargazer lily super loose and abstract. And we even kind of solved a problem and learned that, we don't have to always stick exactly with what the bouquet has for us. So I hope that you have fun with this and just play with your paint. The more you paint, the more you get used to color mixing and just get more confident. So have fun, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Thank you, everybody.